Hello YouTube, this is the Game Philosopher, and today we're talking more about the subject of yesterday. But I'm not going to be talking about my war against Neoplatonism, but rather how you can tolerate disagreement, and why some people get offended when you talk about things they don't understand. And yeah, I mean, like, some of it's kind of petty, but at the same time I wanted to talk about this because of the same issue that triggered the previous video. I wanted to go on because this person kept, throwing insults and insults. And then they finally posted a comment on their Facebook. Well, not the person in general, but the other person, where it was copying what I said and saying, translation, blah blah blah, self-verification, blah blah blah. But the thing was, I wasn't really doing that. I was just agreeing with what the person in the original post was saying, but explaining my own perspective on it. And as a result, that person, the person who was the original poster, kind of got uptight about it. Then pretty much every one of her friends jumped on me, and so pretty much it's back and back harassment, and I really don't like that so much. And I actually reported it to Facebook, and anyway, while I get that situation resolved, we'll be talking to you about conversation. The rules of conversation, and, well, this is hard because I can't really say rules, because sometimes you can break or bend these general truths about conversation, and I do that all the time. And at the same time, I have to be honest with my viewer that I have a form of autism, and also I did brain scans, and it was revealed that there was a partial agenesis of the corpus callosum, which pretty much affects my ability to read social cues. And so whatever type of thing that helps boost my credibility or diminishes it when it comes to conversations, let me tell you right away that I make a lot of mistakes, but at the same time I study and I learn from them, as anyone should who's interested in self-cultivation and the Platonic lifestyle or any type of philosophical lifestyle, because a lot of philosophy is about self-cultivation as much as it is about learning the reasoning skills necessary to learning and interpreting things and finding the system of truth, and likely system of truth, because you can't really say absolutely that something is true. Otherwise, you will get into a little bit of trouble with epistemic claims, because at one end you can say, I know this is true because of my experience, but at the other side, perception or someone else's experience might contradict that. So there's a lot of clashes of epistemology, so you can't really say everything's necessarily absolutely true, but you can have a pretty good idea from your experience and your ability to talk from your experience and from your knowledge or of the facts. But at the same time, you have to distinguish between your interpretation and the facts themselves, because there is truth. It's just that your interpretation is not necessarily the truth. It's just how you perceive the things. In fact, Aristotle in Organon, I don't like this about him, that he talked about perceived notions of fact, or reasoned truth, as he would call them. And I really don't like this term because they're not really reasoned truth, because the truth lies in the facts. But at the same time, your interpretation of the facts, that's the issue, is that you can't really say that's necessarily true, because there's a little thing where, let's say you believe X, someone says not X, but at the same time, X because blah blah, or not X because of blah blah. You both have the same facts. Assuming that the other person is a better debater than you, for instance, you debate with the person, you clash the ideas, then you learn their perspective and they learn your perspective. And what happens is that you can actually learn from where you might have somewhat got it wrong, or what they might have somewhat got it wrong from learning from you, and what you got right and what they got right. And from that, you broaden your horizons in a manner of sense. You actually think about things better, and you're closer to the truth that's out there. But at the same time, you're looking at these facts, and you don't always have all the facts. In fact, for the most part, let's say you're debating or even in any type of conversation, X is not the case. This guy has more information to why he thinks X is not the case. Now, X is the case. This guy, whether it's you or someone else, I'm just going to make it more subjective and personal, saying it's you. You have this bit of information, you have this bit of information, but the problem is that you don't have all the information. So you kind of rely on X is not the case guy to get more information, and then from there, as you discuss things out, X is not the case and may not be the case, or X is the case may not be the case, but you discover more clearly, if you're the X is not the case guy, what might be the case instead. Or if you're X is the case guy, assuming that X is still the case, you might think, you assume different things about X and what defines X. Now, back on to more other things, the bigger things of conversation, and how this relates. Since I just talked about the debating aspect, rules of conversation from this part, like not everyone goes through a formal debate, so a lot of people make a very big mistake, and this is right off the bat, that they would do what's called a reductio ad absurdum, which is where you destroy someone's argument and not give them a chance to speak. You pretty much just try to say that they're not credible, they suck, they're terrible, they don't have the facts straight, and this is since this is one of the most common mistakes people make, it's something you got to guard against. And of course, in a formal debate setting, you are going to do this because formal debate's about winning. It's not really about looking for truth. And so you might want to humiliate and demolish your opponent. But at the same time, if you're disagreeing, you don't need to, say you're wrong necessarily, or I think you would instead think, I think you might not have the facts completely straight, and here is why. And in this, people will actually think that you're more honest, and because you are being more honest, and saying, well, I don't think you necessarily have all the facts, then here's why. You're giving your opinion more gently, and you're listening to this other person, and when you're listening to this other person, you think about how things go around, and from there you learn the rule of conversation that is patience. And when you're patient with your conversation partner, when you're disagreeing, well, it's going to resolve out regardless. Now, if you're going to be humble and say that you're wrong here, and they're going to be humble and say they're wrong here, you mend the situation by having a more precise perspective. They do the same. Now, if they don't do the same, it kills the conversation because it's a dance. And if it's a dance, then, like my dog here, there's a lot of cooperation. If I were to take my dog and I were to refuse to feed her, for example, for so long, she will bite me, and because she wants to cooperate with me because I feed her, and so she is friendly. In fact, she's a good dog, and so just like that, in conversation, it's give and take. So if you think that X is not the case, someone says X is the case, you really got to consider things. Next conversation. Well, the next conversation principle, I think I'm going to get away from the whole entire concept I've been talking about, which is disagreement. I'm going to be talking more about the concept of casual conversation. A lot of people make a mistake of being a little bit too bold. In fact, when you're too bold, a lot of times you might say a very offensive joke. And when you say a very offensive joke, what happens is that it depends on this other person if you like it or not. And if they're not a good friend of yours, it's not going to bode well for you, because a lot of times they will backlash very badly. And in fact, this is a rule I bend a lot because I have a lot of friends that we like to insult each other, make fun of each other and stuff. In fact, one of my friends actually posted a lot of my stuff to these conversations that are very cringy. I have a lot on Facebook with people who think they know what they're talking about a lot, and there's a lot of drama because Facebook discussions, and so we tend to essentially shit talk. Now, the next rule I would like to assert would be to give more listening than you are giving the discussing. Like, for this rule, you can bend a little bit if you're talking with someone who's an introvert, because they're not going to want to open the discussion, so you're going to have to take the lead there. But if you, for instance, that you take the conversation and you're talking too much, the person will hear it and then they'll tune you out, because the reason why they tune you out is because you're boring and you're not really considering what they might be feeling at the moment. And a lot of times there's this common sense rule that people like to hear themselves talk and ramble on and on and on about whatever they want. In fact, what you're doing if you're doing a monologue to someone and trying to dominate the conversation, you are pretty much doing what's essentially word vomit, and it's totally inappropriate. Because the person, whether it's someone you know for a while or someone you don't know, they're not going to like it because they want to express their feelings. Plus, if someone's having a bad day, you might not know about it, and you could learn more about their bad day and learn more about them and their psychology just by asking these questions about their day, learning from them, by talking with them and letting them talk. Another thing is that it's pretty much rude to not practice the patience with people. Now, for the cases that you might have an emotional bias, like for instance, if you're feeling like you're under attack by something, and this actually relates back to the thing I talked about in the start of this video. Like, if you don't understand something someone says, and you think that they might be trying to one-up you, or you might think that they're being offensive in some way, or they're trying to hurt you, what you need to do is just give it a little bit of time. Like I said, with patience, if you give it a little bit of time, you might count to 10 if you're angry, take a deep breath if it gives you anxiety, whatever. From there, you pretty much reset your mind. Then reconsider what someone says. From that, you could actually get the conversation a little bit going in a more productive way. And for example, if you are having a little bit of anxiety, you might want to tell someone, "Excuse me, just 1 second." Then you stall, give yourself a nice little breath. Then after that, you ask them a question to clarify themselves. Then from there, you talk, might throw in a joke, and from that, you have a good conversation. Now, more in joking, I already talked about not to say too many offensive jokes. Now, on crude jokes, it's kind of similar to offensive jokes, but you might not want to say it in every context, in fact, but people actually like crude jokes. A lot of times they laugh about it unless they are extremely religious minded and get offended by crude jokes. But um, you could use humor to highlight something that might feel embarrassing to you, or a situation that in particular, like for example, when someone walks in on someone else in a most awkward manner and it looks kind of weird, you could easily recover with a joke. In fact, if any embarrassing situation, the best thing you want to do is recover with a joke, because otherwise it's going to be like, oh crap, and you're going to startle yourself. It's not really all that great. Now, when it comes to talking with women or the opposite gender, this is very complicated because there's a lot of feelings that are involved. In fact, people feel awkward. Like, for example, if you're trying to find a female friend and you're a male, a lot of people might assume that you're trying to get with that person, but you're just wanting a friendship. So it causes these really weird things to happen. So you have to slow down a little bit, or respect privacy a little bit, and like if your friend who's of the opposite gender has some type of lover, you always hang out with the person only if you are with the person and that person has their lover with them. Otherwise, you're going to cause a lot of chaos. Now that's a common sense rule, but another thing is, like, if the person is single and you're trying to get with them, now this thing is a little bit complicated. There's a lot of people who talk about theory of seduction, and I've talked a little bit about it in the past, but I haven't talked about it in detail, and I'm not going to talk about it in detail in this video because I'm already rambling on and on. And I just recommend read Ovid's Ars Amatora, or The Art of Love. This is a really good book. I've been checking it out, and I've been applying it to whenever I talk with someone I might be interested in. And it actually gives a lot of really good advice. I really recommend it. It's very wonderful, and if you guys like me recommending books, I will keep doing it. So like, comment, subscribe, tell me in the comments if you like me recommending the books, or if you like the anything about this video, any points, let me know. Now, I know my recording problems have been very bad because I have a very cheap mic, but I'm still trying to figure through it. Back the fans off, so that fixes a lot of the sound issues. But yeah, like, if you guys have any advice on sound, let me know. And thank you for listening to this very long video.